That night, I was on duty at a women's hospital. I couldn't return home, not for one day, not for two. On the third day, something happened that cannot truly be told. An armed attack on the hospital. Weapons, noise, terror. And suddenly, the law became this. Nurses for the soldiers, women doctors for the officers. I resisted. I resisted until my body betrayed me, and the more a woman resisted, the harsher the punishment became. Suddenly, in the middle of that hell, I saw my husband. He entered with
Story. Today, I'm not telling a piece of news, not a headline from a newspaper. Today, I'm telling a letter. A letter that arrived at Friday Mail in 1990 to the writer Abdel Wahab Motawa, who at the time was what you could call the voice of broken people, but in a literary, deeply human way, without showmanship, without exaggeration. The letter says, 5 years ago, I was a medical student. I wore the hijab. I was religious. I didn't joke with men. I didn't engage in meaningless talk. I never got close to a man, except when absolutely necessary. Not once. In my 4th year, I spoke to a medical intern about something related to my studies. He admired me, but he didn't dare speak to me again. Instead, he came to my family the right way. My father agreed, not because he was rich, not because he had influence, but because he saw his character. He was the first man to enter my life, and I loved him, not with reason, but with my whole heart. We married after graduation and lived a modest life, simple but secure. I gave birth to our first child. Then we received a job offer at a hospital in a Gulf country. My father said, either you travel with your husband or you refuse. And God willed that my husband found work in the same city. We traveled, me, him, and our infant son. We weren't greedy. We weren't chasing illusions. All we wanted was an apartment, a clinic, a car, and a little safety. Year after year, we achieved one dream after another. In the 4th year, we said, this is our last year, then we'll go home. But in one single night, everything stopped. The Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. That night, I was on duty at a women's hospital. I couldn't return home, not for one day, not for two. On the third day, something happened that cannot truly be told. An armed attack on the hospital. Weapons, noise, terror. And suddenly, the law became this. Nurses for the soldiers, women doctors for the officers. I resisted. I resisted until my body betrayed me, and the more a woman resisted, the harsher the punishment became. Suddenly, in the middle of that hell, I saw my husband. He entered, with Egyptian doctors, trying to protect the women and the patients. But weapons were louder. A bullet struck one of his colleagues. He died in front of him. Then the guns were aimed at them. I screamed, not for myself, for my children. After that, I don't remember. I woke up bleeding, and my husband was trying to save me. I told him, let me die. He said, the children need you, and this is not your fault. We escaped, and in the desert, under the burning heat, with no food, no water, my infant son died in my arms. I didn't cry, neither did his father. We buried him alone in the desert, under the scorching sun, without a single tear, as if he were the smallest loss. Even a mother's grief for her child didn't come the way it should, as if I were already dead, and the dead do not grieve. We returned to Egypt, but we returned without souls. My husband sleeps on the living room floor. He doesn't look at me, and I can't look at him. He told me, if anyone asks, deny everything. I sent this letter because my husband loved your words and trusted your judgment. He tried to write to you, then stopped. I found what he wrote, that he was thinking about suicide or divorce. Abdel Wahab Motawa's response to the wife. My lady, what happened to you was a crime, not a test, not a sin, not a punishment, not a message from God. What happened was an armed robbery of your body, your soul, and your humanity. And what is taken under the threat for a weapon cannot be judged, cannot be debated as honor, and cannot be measured by conscience. You were not choosing, you were trying to survive. Do not carry guilt for something you never did. Do not ask, why me? Why did this happen? Why did God allow it? A bullet does not choose, and catastrophe does not arrive with justice. What needs treatment is not your honor. What needs treatment
is the wound, opened inside you and inside your husband. You both need long-term psychological treatment to heal from the impact of this brutal trauma. The husband's letter. Everyone pitied her. I have no objection to that, but no one asked how I feel. There is a difference between hearing and seeing. I saw her in front of me, and I could do nothing. I thought I was a man, brave, fearless, but in front of a gun, everything collapsed. Words collapsed, courage collapsed, the image she had of me collapsed. I don't know why I saved her, because I love her, because I'm a doctor, both, or nothing at all. I can't leave her, and I can't touch her. I can't look into her eyes, because every time, I feel like she's asking, where were you? Where were you while I was dying? Divorce feels selfish, I know that, but I am lost, broken, and I have no answers. I was invited to perform Umrah at someone else's expense. I thanked him, but I refused. I cannot bear the feeling that someone or a family knows me, knows my story, knows what happened to us. I will go for Umrah on my own. I will wash with Zamzam water, drink from it, and pray for forgiveness and for forgetting. Abdul Wahab Motawaz's response to the husband. My friend, if you had taken one step forward, you would have died, and it would not have changed anything. It would not have saved anyone. You would have died and left behind a bleeding wife, lost children, and parents receiving your body. Courage is not always confrontation. Sometimes courage is admitting that there are things bigger than you. The one who committed the crime was not brave. He was hiding behind a weapon and a gang. If he were alone, he would have been a coward. As for you, you chose to live, to carry responsibility, and to continue despite the pain. That is not weakness. That is the hardest kind of manhood. And at the end of these letters, we must pause and say a truth, not as a courtesy, not as justification, but so the truth is not buried under shock. What happened in this story was an individual criminal act by a group of despicable people who exploited weapons, exploited chaos, and exploited the moment when the law disappeared. This does not represent the people of Iraq, nor its families, nor its society. The Iraqi people, like any people on earth, have honorable men and women, decent human beings, mothers who lost their children, fathers who buried their dreams under rubble, and they paid the price of wars, like others, perhaps more. The truth that must be said is that this was not an exception. Similar crimes happened in wars in Europe, Africa, Asia, Latin America, and everywhere when weapons rise above humanity. Crimes are never the crimes of peoples. Crimes are always the crimes of individuals. Individuals who, when given power without accountability, turn into monsters, without homeland, without religion, without conscience. And the innocent are always the ones who pay the price.
If this story shook you, don't scroll away. Like, share, and keep the truth alive.